morning, everyone. A warm welcome to all our distinguished speakers, esteemed faculty members, and enthusiastic participants to the third day of this Atal online faculty development program on smart communication and IoT, security and future applications and possibilities. Over the past 2 days, we have dwelled deep into enriching discussions, thought provoking sessions, and valuable learning experiences. Today, we continue this journey with another set of engaging session that would to be both inspiring and informative. Now, I invite Mr. S. Santosh, Assistant Professor from EC Department, to introduce our resource person.
Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to introduce Mr. C. Sokanathan, Scientist G at STQC, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. With over 32 years of experience, he is a distinguished expert in software testing, quality assurance, and evaluation of critical applications, including safety criticals and defense systems. His contributions have played a vital role in ensuring India's technological standards, certification process, and digital infrastructure meet global benchmark. Mr. Chokanathan holds MTech in Computer and Information Technology, BE in Electronics and Communication Engineering. Additionally, he is certified in Software Quality Professional, Certified Data Center Professional, ISO 9000 Lead Auditor. His expertise in third-party software testing, independent verification and validation, and mission control system significantly contributed to India's technological growth and digital security. Today, as a resource person, we are honored to learn from his vast knowledge and experience. Let's welcome Mr. Shokanathan for this FTP. It's a privilege to have him with us today. Now, I am handing over the session to our resource person. Thank you, sir. Yes, please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Let me share my screen. Visible my screen?
Visible, sir.
Okay. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much, the organizers, giving me the opportunity to take up a topic on smart cities communication security. As you know that smart cities is the buzzword throughout the global due to the various reasons, population as well as managing the urban infrastructure to efficiently to save the resources. It is essential that actually the cities has to be managed in a way that the quality of life of the citizens are ensured, and the resources are being used optimally, and smart governance is being managed. So for this, Government of India had come out with a scheme called Smart Cities Mission. It was launched in 2015, keeping an objective of transforming these urban areas into a sustainable, inclusive, and citizen-friendly cities by integrating the technology, improving the infrastructure, and enhancing the quality of life. Initially, it has been started with 100 smart cities. So the kind of lessons what we have learned from these 100 smart cities and the essence of the communication importance. So today we are going to deal with uh, the aspects of the communication security in smart cities. We will have a quick round of what is the background behind this, and how the security is very important, at least a minimum level of security, that is a baseline
Sir,
security
excuse me,
measures.
sir. Sorry
Yeah.
for the interruption. Could you please share your screen in full screen mode?
Okay, fine.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Yeah, thank you. So then the current strategies of government and what are all the challenges faced, to implementing the security, and what is the future directions, and we will finally see that actually what could be the concluded out of this topic. So what are the smart cities? Smart cities is nothing but various sensors, basically IoT sensors integrates with collecting a large volume of data from these sensors and using a data analytics and technology to enhance the living and a smarter infrastructure more efficiently for public uses. The role of communication is very important, as you know that actually in any smart cities the various sensors are being implemented, are used. Most of our Indian context, the smart cities have come out with because there are certain areas where actually the flood is very causes a huge loss to the citizens. The flood sensors are is one IoT based sensors implemented in smart city, and solid waste management, where actually the collection of this solid waste uh, is actually the garbage collections are being done, and another important is actually smart parking. So for all these actually the communication becomes very important where these IoT devices are being used. So then the security also becomes very important. For all these the data is actually collected and data analytics are being done in actually integrated command and control center. uh, so that is the core part of a smart city. In smart cities, the integration of technology and urban infrastructure, that means that the entire management of the civil society by the municipal corporation or you know corporation are being done actually totally integrated a technology with a lot of IoT based sensors. So basically these services like transport, healthcare, and utilities. So these are all basic, the smarts, the services basically involves a lot of communications. The smart cities mainly we have to see that actually sustainability and environmental efficiency is more important. That is the reason why the smart cities has been planned, and it should be a centric, citizen centric governance. Role of communication, the in smart cities, it is as you all of you know that actually the smart cities involves a lot of the sensors data to be collected. That means a large volume of the the data being collected and exchanged, and the decision is made based on the data collected using the data analytics. And sometimes it is more important that actually real time information flow for decision making is very important. As you know that in case of flood warnings, in case of an emergency response situations, disaster management situations, where the real time information is very essential, and the connectivity between the smart elements or the edge devices, also called edge devices, it becomes a very important to connect seamlessly, because the large volume of even millions of the sensors being connected, and the data is collected and analyzed, and the decision is made. So naturally the communication becomes very important. And as you all of you know that actually edge devices, if uh, there is a problem in edge devices, security, then naturally the entire city can be compromised easily. So it is very essential that actually the communication should be very strong and fast. So when the data generated from various the sensors, like environmental sensors, like flood sensors, like parking, smart parking vehicles sensors, like the garbage solid waste management, dust, garbage bin sensors. So all these sensors gives a lot of data. When their data is actually transmitted to the command and control center, where actually the decisions are made, if this data is not securely communicated, and if there is a compromise in that, then naturally the decision making becomes difficult, and as well as it may leads to cyber kind of crisis. So naturally we'll have to they secure the data communication. And and city cannot, since the smart city is actually working based on the large volume of the data, and many of the decisions are automatically taken using the data analytics features, then the communication is very important, as well as security is very important. If any interruption due to any reasons, then it will halt the entire city operations, where actually there will be a hue and cries could happen. Then preventive cyber threats. So as you know that actually, if some mischievous people, if they try to create a sabotage, or a kind of situation where they can do it actually using attacks. So that is actually to be prevented. Cyber attacks is a very crucial aspect when it comes to smart cities and building a public trust. So basically these smart cities are being used, all the the citizens, through their availing their services through various apps, which are in turn integrated with the integrated and command and control systems. So the backbone of the smart cities are ICC, that is integrated command and control center, which acts as a very, just a second, now it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we were discussing about the command and control center, which is the backbone of any smart city operations. Uh, this is where actually command and control center is the place where actually all the communications actually ended up with the command and control center, where the decisions are made, and the city is actually administrated for various functions and services through this ICC only. It's basically all the e-governance services will be provided through the ICC, and citizens, the services also delivered through the ICC. And since the communications from the edge devices to the ICC is to be secured, generally ICC, the command and control center, adopts an end-to-end security model. Means from the device, the data generated to the place where actually in ICC, where the data is getting processed, decisions made up to that, actually a security is to be adopted. So ICC generally uses actually end-to-end security model, and protects the data and infrastructure from malicious attacks from you know uh, uh, from different threat actors, and also data theft and natural disasters. So all these actually is to be considered when we are operating in ICC. The India's, the background is actually smart cities. I initially started with 100 mission, 100 smart cities. And as you know that actually they have gone with mainly with flood, alert systems, emergency response system, emergency callback. These are all the various features actually the Indian smart cities already been implemented, and smart parking, smart transportation, and smart solid waste management. So these are various, the features in smart cities currently being implemented. And the data flow, yes, how the data flow is happening in smart cities, it's more important. We look at actually how the data flow is happening, and what kind of communications and what kind of sensitive data involved. Of late actually, many of the citizens, they share a lot of information pertaining to the personal, which is more important, and to be confidentially kept, to be processed by the any mm, the application processing. So that actually is to be established, and also it should be resilience to the threats. So this already I told that actually it is being launched in 2015. Almost 100 smart cities already implemented across the country. The the most of the smart cities are totally managed through IoT enabled infrastructure. That means endpoint devices like smart street lights, flood sensor, environmental sensors. So all these sensors are basically IoT based infrastructure. So naturally the real time data gets generated, and the decisions are made using the data analytics, that is for the better urban planning. And real time monitoring is actually very important. For example, in case of traffic, the signals is to be monitored, then it needs a real time data decision making. So it becomes very important using a real time. There are certain the data which need not to be a real time, but for decision making it could be even non-real time data monitoring also there. As you know, the data is getting flowed from billions of devices connected via IoT devices. So the data is connected through IoT devices, and it heavily reliance on 4G and 5G. There are certain areas where the connectivity could be even LAN connectivities could be established, but in most of the remote flood sensors, environmental sensor like your this solid waste management, where actually different bins are kept in different streets, and the garbage collections are being monitored, means it needs 4G and 5G connectivities. So there are a lot of multiple data sources from various sensors. As I told, that the entire city is managed through digitally. That means based on the data collected and the services provided based on the decisions made out of this data collected.
Sir,
And
sorry, sir.
yeah,
Sir, your slide is not getting moved.
okay.
Now it is okay, sir. Sir,
Now,
please share your
yeah,
screen, full screen
yeah,
mode, sir.
okay. This is
That's the uptime.
1 second. Is it okay now?
Now it is okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Sorry. Okay. So typically, the data communication happens vehicle to vehicle communication in case of the solid waste management or transport management, and machine to machine communication also happens. Citizens to the ICC or central, the command and control centers. So various apps and sensors also being used. So basically citizens, most of the citizens will be using applications directly, and their services actually getting delivered through the data collected from various other sensors. What is the sensitive data is kept in that? Actually, most of the smart cities, the applications implemented has personal data which is being collected. So it is very important actually to secure this personal data. And critical infrastructure data also is there. The energy grids and traffic systems, once it comes as a smart systems, naturally it has to be protected. So that security threats are more important. In case of any compromise in power grids, then naturally the entire city goes and blackout. So that is more important. Then the security becomes more important in in these critical infrastructure traffic systems. And data breaches to the last edge devices like I say, IoT sensors is also very important, because there is no security, physical security measures put across all the sensors. So naturally there should be a mechanism where actually the devices security is important, as well as the data collected from the device is also important. Very important factors to be considered when we are dealing with smart cities implementation. A large volume of the data is getting generated. As I told that actually, if you have 10,000 lanes of street lights is smartly managed, means the lot of data is actually getting generated. And similarly for traffic signals, if you go with solid waste management also, cities like Mumbai, like Delhi or even Chennai, so the kind of population, the kind of the infrastructure required to put the number of sensors will considerably high, and the data collected or generated out of that sensors will be very large. As I told that actually many of the communications from these IoT devices collecting the data is actually basically through 4G or 5G networks. And the another important factors where we need to consider is actually quantum computing and post quantum crypto, where actually the current security algorithms or whatever being used naturally vulnerable to compromise in case if using a quantum computing devices. So these things we need to keep in mind actually while designing the security aspects of a smart city. Volume of the data, as already we discussed that actually almost 2.5 quintillion bytes of data is generated globally. And uh, because the data generation is basically decided based on the population, because as more number of the populations are there, where the density of the population is more, then naturally we need to put more devices, and naturally the volume of the data goes up. And in India, yes, the data the volume of the data generated out of various sensors is substantially high. And the data generation is due to basically population density. So in order to communicate with the ICC, that is Integrated Command and Control Center, all these edge devices, that is IoT devices, need to have connected with the 4G or 5G. So mostly 4G gives a more the security, and of course 5G is also having more improved security. So basically, the security of edge devices communicating with the ICC is actually taken care by the 4G and 5G networks security. Four G is most of the time 4G is sufficient actually to have uh, high speed the uh, data transmission. It supports IoT and smart devices. The latency is actually 50 milliseconds, so it is okay. But still, for the real time monitoring and real time applications, naturally we need to migrate it to 4G, 5G. So 5G offers very high speed connectivity, and it is mostly used for the real time monitoring and real time emergency response monitoring systems, where actually this 5G connectivity is more essential, and which can connect and cater to various the devices. I mean, more number of devices can be connected through 5G per kilometers, and 5G has got a more edging due to its network slicing for its performance. So emerging technologies like quantum computing is actually accelerated data processing and encryption is happening. Enhanced cryptographic systems for securing the IoT devices, quantum computing will really help. And AI machine learning, now currently it is massively being engaged actually using AI and machine learning to take decision making process. So now this is the basically what so far we had seen is actually basically to uh, understand that actually how the smart cities and what is their the components, or the aspects of the smart cities we had seen so far. And we have understand that actually for smart cities there are few things where actually very important. The large number of IoT devices are involved, and the large volume of the data is getting generated out of these sensors to manage the city's operations. And if it goes with the entire city as a smartly managed city, means the whole the decision making is depends on the this large volume of the data what is being. So then comes, how do we communicate this all the large volume of the data to a centralized place, that is integrated command and control systems, control center. Naturally the communication becomes a very important role. Then we had seen that actually all these IoT devices can be communicated, I mean can be the communication can happen through 4G and 5G, and certain level of security is being taken care for 4G and 5G. Beyond that, we need to consider a secure communication of all this data and data processing. So these particular four levels of the secure communication becomes very important actually for any smart city uh, uh, operations. So based on our experience, having visiting this almost more than 40 smart cities implementations, and we have identified that actually what are all the areas or the levels in which actually the security has to be implemented in spite of having 4G and 5G communication security protocols. So where all we can have it, actually that's what actually we are going to look at it now. So the the sensor layer, where actually edge devices is to have a proper secured the protocols or secured mechanism should be there, so that the sensor, the data whatever is generated out of the sensor is highly protected. Then becomes a communication layer, where already we had seen that actually the data is getting transmitted to the processing side, maybe to the data center or to the servers or to the database. So when the data is actually transmitted, then how the communication security should be there. Then once data is landed, it is being kept in the server or it is being in the storage devices, how the data has to be secured. Then application, then it goes to the citizen or it goes to the various application to process that data. Then how that data has to be secured when I am started using a various applications. So it is not only the one place where actually the data is just getting transmitted. So that is getting transmitted from generation to the transmission, then to the processing, how the entire chain of the data is supposed to be secured. So that is what is more important. If any of these places, either in sensor or either in communication or in data or in application, if anywhere actually some compromise happens, the entire system can be compromised and can be brought down to the halt. So that is why actually this is very essential that secure communication in smart cities are very essential, and it has to be evaluated. It has to be carefully configured to achieve the secure communication. So when it comes to the sensor layer, as all we know that all these are edge devices like IoT devices are actually is called a sensor edge devices, and this called sensor layer. That means the first level of security measures to be taken care is actually at the sensor level. So all the edge devices like IoT devices has to be authenticated, because somebody else should not come and replace your device with some other device where actually it always gives a strong wrong data and trying to give you a misinformation, and the entire city missionaries are actually working on it. So it should not happen. So in the pool of IoT devices, edge devices connected in the network, it should be able to identify genuine edge devices or the devices actually furious, or the devices actually being replaced with some kind of mischievous devices being put in place. So the first essential thing is actually all these edge devices which are part of our smart city network is supposed to have a uh, uh, authenticated actually devices. The ICC or any application processing or data collection, the devices should able to identify the data where I am getting it from is the one which I really required from. So that is more important. So all the edge devices shall be authenticated. Physical interfaces in the edge devices shall be disabled. Like most of these IoT devices or edge devices, like even including the cameras, we will have for the maintenance purpose, we will have physical connectivities. It could be a JAT, it could be USB connectivity could be there. There could be a separate wireless connectivity could be there. So all these, the devices, the interfaces with the external one, physical, we have to disable it. So that is the first thing actually we'll have to do it. First we will have to authenticate the device. IoT devices whatever been put, actually edge devices put is authenticated. That means only authenticated devices data only will be getting processed. The second one is actually the physical devices, the the port, basically there is a port, communication ports has to be disabled. And when the server is accessing this data or the edge device is pushing the data to the server, this access has to be have a strong authentication mechanism. That means it should be able to authenticate the data which is coming from the edge devices to the server is actually the genuine data. So naturally authentication mechanism becomes very important. And encryption also should be enforced in all the communications. That means data is getting transferred from one place to the other place naturally, like a TLS or any other encryption methods should be there, so that the data is securely passed on to the servers. So generation becomes important, then it becomes a transport. That means communicating with the server, that becomes a very important. So encryption is important actually in edge devices. Edge devices should be configured to connect to authorized network, wireless network only, because many of these sensors where it is being put, it is not put in a place where you will get a privilege of having a flexibility of having a network or having a power. In fact, many of these devices were remotely placed, like flood sensors. You don't have a power actually to power on there, so it has to have a self-powered devices with solar powered, or so the sensors will be remotely placed, and the connectivity becomes a very challenging one. So all these edge devices has to be configured properly and through an authorized wireless network. And the firmware is very important. Most of the security issues comes because of the not updating the firmware to the latest one. And this is been achieved most of the time trusted electronic value chain. That means trusted electronic value chain means that the device security is established. Very very important. As you know that recently that if, the during the war with Israel in Lebanon, many of the edge devices, that means the walkie talks which they were using, got activated and blast has happened. So it's very essential that actually collected, so when we put a large volume of that this IoT sensors in different places and to collect the data, but if any compromise is there in the device security, then naturally what has happened in Lebanon could also happen in anywhere. So it is very essential that actually we need to have a electronic trusted electronic value chain is very important. and and the firmware is supposed to be thoroughly tested for its any furious or the kind of any mal indented mal functions have been implemented or not. So that is very important. And hardening of the devices is very, very important, because the IoT device may have many features, but the place for which actually I've been used, the requirement for that for which I have used is having only a few features to be enabled, means it should be enabled only for a few features, rest of them has to be disabled. So hardening of the device is very important, and there shall not be any mechanism that all these edge devices can be accessed from a public domain. Like you have a traffic signals or CCTV camera monitoring the entire system, there should not be any possibilities that it can be accessed through a public domain where anybody can access the the cameras, and so that is very important. So this should not have any public domain. And all these edge devices only allows authenticated sensor to operate in their systems, and any of not authenticated one has to be kept out of this one. There are many ways actually to achieve how we can secure these edge devices, maybe through a MAC ID recognition, maybe device ID recognition, using a authentication mechanism. So basically, first we have to secure this sensor layer using various mechanisms of security. Then becomes a communication side. Okay, data is getting generated, my device is hardened, and my edge device is more secured. Now the data coming out of from this device has to be transmitted to the my data center, where actually the data is getting processed. So there actually we need to have another kind of communication layer security measures. So always we must run isolated private networks. That means the entire city operations, if you have a traffic lights, if you have a CCTV camera monitoring, if you have a smart transport mechanism, all of them actually supposed to be monitored, data to be transported to using a private networks, not a public network or through a internet kind of thing. And where the public services, from there actually public services can be delivered through a internet. So the data collection to the data center, it has to be always in a private network. That's more important. And segmentation shall be enforced in a data network, because the same network can be used for a traffic signal monitoring and CCTV monitoring, for environmental monitoring. So for all these actually you should be in a segmented way. Actually it has to be transported. That means the communication has to happen only in segmented way, based on the application wise or functional wise. And all these edge devices, when it is connected with a data center, it has to be kept in a separate firewall monitoring system. Actually network firewall monitoring system should be there, so that anybody from outside, even though it is opened up, anybody from outside will not be able to pass on to the edge devices, will not be able to reach to the edge devices beyond these firewalls. So that is more important. And the data center network has to be secured. That means the network from the device network to the data center network, this has to be secured by using various mechanisms, maybe firewalls. Wireless network also to be secured, whether it is wireless or wired, both of network has to be securely configured. And all the devices, that is nothing but already we had discussed, the devices hardened should be there. And encryption, can happen when from the data to from the edge devices to the data center. So there should be a secure protocols which is enabled mostly from TLS 1.2 or SSH, or these are all various security protocols when the data is in transmission. And remote connections, data centers will always use encrypted channels. That means VPN networks. When we say private networks, it's nothing but actually a virtual private network where actually, the data in between, the tunnel is established and data in between. Even though somebody is able to extract that, they will not be able to understand what is the data is being transmitted. All unused network or a telecom access points shall be disabled to prevent unauthorized access. Yes, this is more important. It is kind of a disciplined approach where actually a communication, the layer security measures can be achieved. Then security becomes at a data layer side. So once the data has come to the server side, from edge devices to the communication layer, then it becomes data. So once the data is comes, where it is getting stored are actually to be hardened, and those devices which are actually used to store the data has to be more securely configured. That is more important. And another thing is actually this data once stored, then it should be accessed, or it should be used by only a proper authentication, and it shall not be used by any unauthenticated user shall not be able to access it. So that is more important. Once the data, so we have secured from edge devices to the communication, and where if we have not protected the database, probably there could be a compromise. So that is where very important. Database access only through the authorized users should be and database servers deployed in network segment. Yes, there are data. It's highly onto the network side, data center network side. That means once the data has come, you should have a proper segmentation. Their databases are in one side, and the application servers are which are using this data should be in another side, and so that a proper segmentation is happening, and only the authorized communication channel is getting established whenever you want to access the database. So that is another important you know uh, 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 measures one should take care actually while we are using the yes. The other important area is actually uh, application layer. So it becomes now from the endpoint devices to the data center it has come, and the data also stored properly with a secured manner. Now it becomes an application where it is getting processed. Applications where actually most of the end users start using that particular data decision makings, whatever, for their day-to-day operations. So for these applications also has to be secured using a various security measures. So all the web-based applications, which mostly citizen-centric applications, it has to be thoroughly tested or hardened as per the OWASP application security verification standard. That is Open Web Application Security Project. OWASP is actually OWASP, OWASP Web Application Security Project. They have come out with a guidelines kind of thing actually, application security verification, ASV. So that actually needs to be uh, uh, have to be tested actually based on the requirements. Mobile also have applications. So most of the citizens use mobile applications actually to use their smart, avail their services actually using the smart cities. So all these mobile applications also has to be tested using a mobile application security verification standard, MASVS. So that as per that requirements, it is supposed to be tested, and and the application security is very very important. If you have managed properly your edge devices, you have managed your communications where the data transmitted properly, you have stored properly. But when it comes to the application where you have a vulnerabilities, you have a backdoor entries, then naturally the entire system may come to a halt or a collapse. So there could be a security threats actually using the applications. Even the application users, if they are very smarter enough, then they can use the accessing the application through which they can jeopardize the entire operations of the city by just accessing the application. So we have to prevent in order to prevent those things, we need to take care of the application security uh, 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 by doing the web-based applications as per the OAuth top 10 or application security verification standards, or all mobile applications also has to be tested for that. And also an authenticated maps. See, many of these applications are accessed through the APIs. So naturally we'll have to secure API security is also very, very important. That means the data is actually, because seamless operations happens means the various applications from one department to the another department, the data is getting exchanged through APIs. If the APIs are actually vulnerable, naturally anybody can use that vulnerability and make the system jeopardize. So that is very important. So any mobile applications, secure authentication should be there, data encryption should be there, security data secure data storage should be there, secure API should be there, and secure communications should be there. So there are various the requirement as described in the mobile application security verification standards, that is MASVS. One has to before put into the operation, one has to test all these things actually to secure the application layer. So the current strategy, so in order to take care, to take care of this security risks actually in the smart city communication, so 4 levels of assessments as we had seen is supposed to be minimally at least to be taken care. This is called baseline security measures, what we had seen previously, that some edge devices sensor layer, then your communication layer, then your data layer, then your application layer. At least minimum level of security measures should be there actually to take care of it. So the question comes: the more securities are implemented, then the latency becomes a problem. So most of these smart cities, you can't afford to have a data latencies. So naturally, you need to have an effective algorithms in place to manage this security system. So those selecting those algorithms also very important in managing this communication security of smart cities. So current strategies, yes, government has come out with the cyber security policies, do's and don't do's, and we have a collaborative public and private partnership to take care of this communication related threats or cyber security related threats. And 4G, 5G gives a more the robust communication security in case of the data is getting transmitted from edge devices to the data up to the data center. Yes, there is a robust the communication the network 4G or 5G. And government is having where actually like we have a certain, or we have, each country have got their own cyber security intelligence gathering, and the same is getting shared, so that before anything happens, this information is passed on, and appropriate preventive measures are being taken. But big challenges are there in implementing security or in communication of smart cities. Yes, there could be a lot of vulnerable IoT devices that will be a problem, because more and more, the devices coming into the market, if there is no control over it, actually, unless proper regulation is there, then the more vulnerable IoT devices can enter into the market, where even it can be in consumer appliances also. These IoTs can create a huge problem, like what has happened in Lebanon. So the incident happened in Lebanon, is an eye opener for for all these edge devices, the security. So it's more important. So vulnerable IoT devices has to be eliminated. So naturally, we need to have a strong mechanism of trusted electronic value chain. That means the devices, where it is getting manufactured, and what components goes into the devices, and to the assembling, manufacturing, and shipping, and to the use of these devices, has to have a proper chain of the security measures that will only can help to avoid the incidents like what has happened in Lebanon. Lack of uniform security standards, because European follows different standards for the the security standards for IoT devices, though some of them has become a common, actually. ISO IEC also has got come out with their own standards. Now in India also, BIS also is preparing, and I think it's all in a draft stage, that may also come out for security requirements of any IoT devices. And data privacy issues also is very, very important. But currently, government is coming out with a data prevention act. So that is the Data Privacy Act, actually. So that bill is actually, once that comes, then probably we have to implement more stringently, because the devices, edge devices, where it collects all the data information about the personal information, particularly not only personal, plus related to your financial, and so the lot of data is automatically getting generated, which are sensitive to the person privacy. So that has to be prevented, or it has to be protected. So that is also becomes a very big challenge. So the device challenge is very big challenges, actually. Once the uniform security standards comes, probably we can leverage those the standards to ensure the security of these IoT devices. And the data privacy is also important, actually, very, very important now, actually. Already in European DPR acts, many data privacy acts have come. So in India also we are taking up, and I think once it comes, then it probably the privacy also can be protected. So that is very important. And then infrastructure side, yes, legacy systems are poor security readiness. Yes, we need to have, but a lot of the cloud based infrastructure is getting created in India. Probably if such the larger data centers are coming up, if the computing devices, as we had seen that, actually, to the level of quantum computing infrastructure established, probably the uh, the smart city management will become very, very easy and comfortable, and more useful. And to reduce the dependency on foreign tech for critical infrastructure, as I nothing but we'll have to have the own data has to be owned, and data has to be kept within the boundaries of our country. So naturally, the lot of infrastructure are getting being created to take care of these challenges. Naturally, policies are already it's coming up to take care of the security in smart cities. That's more important. And uh, and uh, of course, financial and skill barriers, as we many of our smart city institutions have geared up with a lot of skill development, and more experienced people are available actually to take care of any challenges coming out of this smart city implementation with respect to the security. Naturally, we need to have future directions. Yes, we need to have enhancing cyber security measures, because once you leave the city with the hands of based on the decisions of billions of uh, edge devices and data analytics, then decisions are made. Naturally, cyber security measures are there actually. So current implementations, if you look at emergency response, in case of any accidents happens within the the surveillance of the smart city, automatically the ambulance reaches to the set spot without having anybody, calling the uh, hospital and informing them actually such incident has happened. But in smart cities, automatically the ambulance will reach within the specified time, the shortest time actually. So that to that level of smartly managing the city becomes very challenging because of this cyber security threats. So because many times furious or false the alarms will lead to frustrations. So it is very important that actually the proper security measures are in place. Naturally, the emerging technologies, yes, a lot of the technologies, AI and machine learning, and the cloud data centers and cloud quantum computing naturally will leverage managing the smart cities, implementing the smart cities more efficient and more environmental friendly. So that is also is in place actually in coming days. I think that will have a bigger mm, future. Actually, it is going to happen. So then strong policy recommendations, because already, as I told, that actually data privacy act, it is already in place. And these are all very important actually, when citizens share their informations with uh, various the authorities, and the protection of those things are actually becomes very important. And finally, the capacity building, yes, based on the lessons learned from various smart city implementations, capacity building is another essential part, both in technology as well as for the cyber security, as well as managing the entire city operations. So that is actually another so, so I think in coming days it will be have more this one. So in all, what is required is actually a robust communication security to function efficiently. This the performance security goes in opposite directions. So in case you want a very fast, then you need to have a less security. You want if the communication has to happen, if you are implementing a strong security, naturally it takes more time actually to perform. So it's a compromise between security and performance or efficiency. So we need to have consider that robust communication security, where the latency, less latency and more secured kind of communication system has to be implemented. And cyber security, as we already discussed, cyber security is another important aspect when you go for smart city implementations. Data privacy is already discussed, and policy. This all is coming up, and quantum computing and AI will play a very crucial role. Quantum computing may really even have a big challenge for normal security implementations, which will be able to compromise unless you implement with a very higher encryption algorithms. probably it will be a challenge actually to have a more secured communications. So so with this, so I come to a conclusion. So I just open to the forum to have any questions, and probably will take up some questions. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Dear participants, you can discuss with expert. Those who have queries, please. Dear participants, you can post your questions in the chat box.
I could see one, the question on trusted sensors. So, as you aware that actually a government has already has given a notification for CCTV cameras, so IoT based CCTV cameras. So maybe in this year after April, you will not be able to find the CCTV cameras which are not certified by the competent authorities or by the government. So what do you mean by the certification? Certification means that actually, as we had discussed, that establishing the trusted security, trusted value chain, TVC we call it. So that is more important. So already government has given a notification, and based on that, testing will be performed. Only those products which are tested will be available in the market in the case of IoT based CCTV cameras.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can post your questions in the chat box. Our resource person is always ready to give explanation regarding your queries.
Yeah, I could see that suggests some security measures to be taken to ensure security of IoT devices. Yeah, this is very valid. The question which already I told we had discussed also in our topic that sensor level or edge level devices securities, all those the security measures what we had discussed is more applicable to the IoT devices. So all these IoT devices is firmware has to be thoroughly tested, including the code checking, and vulnerability checking also has to be done, and the trusted boot. There are various the security measures one has to take care in case of IoT devices. So trusted execution environment is also very important in case of IoT devices based IoT devices. So in all edge devices security measures whatever we discussed is all applicable for any IoT devices also. There is one question actually, whether we can use IoT based CCTV camera in bus. Yes, naturally IoT based camera gives a more intelligent the decision making, the futures. So naturally that will give an alarm. This is actually even a government project also. Any untoward incident happens, automatically it will alert the concerned the officials actually take an appropriate measures, remedy measures. So it is there. IoT based CCTV cameras in bus is more essential. Some emergency has happened for any of the travelers, naturally automatically, as I told we were discussing that emergency response, then automatically the ambulance reach to the place where the bus is actually is going now. So the incident has happened. So to that level actually the the features can be implemented if it is IoT based CCTV cameras are being used in the bus. Yeah, there one more question I could see that. Yeah, very nice question actually, because the IoT based wearable devices we are using actually, we go with whatever the the readings comes out of it. We get a smartwatch. We use, we measure our pulse. We measure our BP. There are so many healthcare related parameters are being given, but what is the authenticity that actually the values given by those devices are correct? So that is why actually we are taking now initiatives. Actually, all those IoT based devices measurements also need to be calibrated. So a smart sensor calibration becomes a very important factor. So yes, that is a big because many people take decisions based on the what your smartwatch gives the measures or values. So based on that you may do it. So naturally IoT based the sensors, the calibration is also an important, which even our government of India is also thinking to bring out IoT based sensors calibrations.
Sir, sir, having a
Yes, sir.
vast experience in the field of security test and security and vulnerability test,
Yes.
holding a key position in country's esteemed organization, the STQC, and being a head in Chennai Center. We are very happy to have you with us. And one small discussion, sir, small question regarding how prepared the world, especially the India, to meet the security and vulnerability challenges posed by advanced computing like quantum computing and artificial intelligence.
Yes, sir. So if the quantum computing becomes the affordable to even a very common man, then it becomes a very challenging that actually the current implementation of all the encryption algorithms can be easily compromised. So naturally we need to have all these the devices, edge devices what we are using is having encryption algorithm having maximum of 256 or uh, yeah, then when it comes to the quantum computing, naturally these all these algorithms can be compromised very easily. So that becomes very challenging. Now currently already the government has taken up the project, and already SETS is an organization where they are all working on it actually to post quantum crypto algorithms. So that is already in place, but it will take time actually, because everybody will not be able to have a quantum computing devices in place. So when it becomes more accessible to the even threat factors, like threat actors, like uh, malicious people, then naturally it is a big challenge. But already project has been started. I think we are already working on that.
Participants, any question? Thank you, sir. On behalf of St. Joseph College of Engineering, Department of ECE, and participants in this August gathering, we thank you so much for your encouraging and enthusiastic presentation to the audience. Your depth knowledge in securities and vulnerabilities is remarkable, and we are fortunate to have learned from you today. Thank you so much for your presence, precious presentation. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dear participants, kindly fill the feedback link which is posted in the chat box for the session day 3 first session. So all the participants are asked to fill your feedback form by using the Atal registered email ID. Participants, kindly switch on your camera for the photo session.
Yes, sir. Sir, please, sir, Mr. Sogradan, sir, you can also switch on your camera, sir, so we can have a video, sir. All participants, please switch on your camera. Thank you all.
Dear participants, kindly switch on your camera. We will take the screenshot. We request all the participants kindly fill the feedback link which is posted in the chat box.
Dear participants, now we will take a short break for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes. The next session will start at 7:30 p.m.
On behalf of St. Joseph College of Engineering, we would like to extend our heartfelt thank to our resource person, sir from STQC for his wonderful presentation. And this insight definitely will enrich different levels of technical skill for educators and also the industrial persons. Thank you, sir. Once again, I would like to extend my heartfelt thank on behalf of St. Joseph College of Engineering. We would like to extend our sincere thank to all the registered participants, and also we would like to extend the live participants, those who are continuously attending this session. Once again, thank you all. We will meet you at 7:30 for the next session. Thank you. Thank you all.